Hi guys, it's Dylan from Bijou Diamond Jewellery in London with another watch video, and today I'm going to break down in depth the Patek Philippe releases from Watches and Wonders 2023. So the March releases for Patek Philippe are kind of like their pre-release. Their main release comes in April, and we also have another mini release in October as well. But let's crack on. I'm going to start at the top of the list with the most complicated, and that is two new Grandmaster Chime watches, the 6300 references from Patek, which is in a way their flagship watches. And the first being a pretty hideous white gold and rose gold variation with brown strap and brown dial. It is a real shame because this watch is an incredible feat of watchmaking, and it's shrouded and kind of ruined by a really hideous case design. The other reference that we also saw is a 6300 with a baguette diamond case and a emerald or green emerald bezel as well. That's much better in my opinion than this brown rose gold and white gold variation. But for me now in this collection, the only kind of slightly pleasing on the eye is the all baguette variation, as it's a little bit more neutral. I think it's a shame that they've made this watch quite vulgar. I think if they'd offered maybe an option that was white gold just with a black dial and a black strap, or maybe a deep blue dial and a deep blue strap, or even just kept the white gold and the blue variation that's now been discontinued, it makes the 6300 a little bit unappealing, to be honest, compared to what it used to be. I know really the clients that are buying this are obviously very high-end clients with Patek, but a lot of clients with Patek are very under the radar and don't really want to shout out their wealth too much. And this watch is obviously an incredibly special reference to be able to own from Patek, and I think it's a shame that they've switched that from being a special piece of watchmaking into something that's very bling, which in a way has made this watch relatively un-Patek Philippe. So yeah, if I had to choose any watch in the collection now, it would be the all diamond variation. Moving on to the 5316 reference. This reference is easily the best watch that Patek has released this year in my opinion, and probably the best watch released at Watches and Wonders 2023. It is truly a masterpiece. What I absolutely love about this watch is, despite the fact it's incredibly complicated and relatively classic in its design, it also has a kind of contemporary young feel to it, which is really rare for a very complicated Patek Philippe like this. Normally on extremely complicated Pateks, or very complicated Pateks, they have a very mature feel to them that makes them a little bit kind of old feeling for younger clients. But this is definitely not that. This strap is really cool. The kind of Teflon-y style strap makes it definitely much younger, and the design of the case and also the dial definitely makes it much more of a younger feeling timepiece, which is really cool for them to be doing on something that's so high end. The dial is obviously the centerpiece of this watch, the main attraction, and it is a beautiful sapphire crystal dial by which the different pieces of the kind of display are laid on top of. The metal is laid on top of, like the date windows, the day windows, and also our retrograde date. So really cool, and our perpetual calendar, basically everything in that watch, which is so much to talk about, is laid on top of this sapphire crystal, which is incredible. And it's kind of ghosted and frosted out as well, like a dark kind of tint almost on it, which it gives this really interesting vibe. I've never really seen anything like this before. It kind of adds like a mysterious feel to the dial and the movement beneath. Almost like you're looking through a well or puddle of water into this beautiful movement that lays below. Yeah, really clever, very creative way of displaying a dial and a movement actually from Patek, which I really like. Other than its really creative looks and utterly beautiful dial, underneath lies an insanely complex watch. And we have just a huge plethora of complications here, other than the fact that they've skeletonized that dial. Underneath it, we have revealed time, obviously. We've got a minute repeater, a tourbillon, a perpetual calendar, a retrograde date, and a moon phase. Basically everything you could possibly throw into a watch, a wristwatch, without putting a chronograph in. Pretty incredible, and just Patek again, just displaying how much skill and technique they have in terms of watchmaking. I love how Patek is just so high end that they don't even display the tourbillon on the dial top, the top of the dial. They actually hide it underneath the dial and put it at the bottom of the watch next to the case back. They just write tourbillon on the dial. That's how high-end they are. And I think that's kind of funny when we're in the theme of case backs and people trying to show off their dials this year, or their movements this year, with Rolex trying to put a clear crystal case back on their Daytona, Platinum Daytona. I find it quite funny that we have Patek over here with an incredibly complex dial and movement, and they've just chucked a tourbillon to the back so no one can see it. Yeah, kind of says it all, doesn't it? I would have to say that the only way to describe this watch really for me is it would honestly be an honor to see this in real life. And that's when you know you've got a pretty special release or a pretty special watch, is when you feel like it's an honor to see that in its flesh, in its real life. And that's truly kind of a nod to those that have put the work and the hours and the craftsmanship into creating something as incredibly complex as this watch. For me, this watch is easily crowned the king or queen of this year's releases by far. Moving on to the 5531 now, travel time with a minute repeater. Pretty incredible watch again from Patek. Beautiful colored strap on this watch as well, and the dial, everything on this watch just marries together so beautifully. And it kind of brings me back to a point I mentioned in my last video when I was looking at some other brands, was that a lot of brands this year have looked to bring out some alternative colored dials, Patek included in that, which I'll look at in a moment when we look at some of the other references this year. And it's really cool to see them releasing a strap color like this with the watch. It's a bold color that's not really been done very much before from Patek, so it's nice to see them venturing away from the standard, black gloss, brown gloss, etc, etc. So yeah, really, really beautiful. And obviously the strap marries perfectly into that beautiful enamel dial, which represents or depicts a old steamboat sailing on Lake Geneva, which is just absolutely so beautiful, kind of in a sunset. It is really magical, this watch. Other than the fact that it's obviously very complex with a minute repeater, it is also a travel time, but just a beautifully cased watch. Very classic looking, very beautiful. I can't wait to see this watch in real life, and definitely with this strap as well. I would definitely own this watch. It's really definitely a masterpiece, and the fact that it has that enamel dial just makes it feel very kind of special, unique, and almost like a piece of art. Moving on now to the 5178, which is a minute repeater watch. It's time and minute repeater watch. It's a very simple watch other than the minute repeater function. But it's got this incredible dial on it, which is kind of almost like hypnotic. I really like this dial a lot. It's not something that I would have naturally gravitated towards, but the more I look at this watch and the more I kind of appreciate, again, Patek going for something a bit more bold and a bit more unique than just flat standard dials. And colors as well. The color on this watch is obviously incredible, matched with that beautiful blue strap too. Just makes this watch really unique, and it's nothing like really that we've seen from Patek, which is really cool to see. I love the fact that it is uber elegant and simple, and you've obviously got that beautiful complication inside being the minute repeater. This watch really is what minute repeaters are about. It is just the sound of the watch on its own, and that's it. This watch's sound as well is slightly different to the other minute repeaters I've already mentioned that Patek's released this year. This model features a very specific gong sound that's a little bit more deeper, longer sounding, a little bit louder. They use different hammers and kind of techniques or watchmaking inside the watch to create a different tone to the gongs, which is really beautiful. If you get a chance to watch a video listening to the gongs on this watch, it is pretty special. Moving on now to the 5224 in rose gold. Really strange watch. I don't love this watch. This is not my favorite watch this year. Definitely not. This is a Calatrava that they've added some complication to. It's got like a 24, so it's a dual time watch firstly. It was designed as a Calatrava essentially that was for someone that was traveling a lot, like a travel time Calatrava. The trouble with that though is that the Calatrava is meant to be a simple kind of entry level point for people in Patek that are very cleanly designed and low price point. The trouble is this watch is a £46,000 watch. It's in rose gold and it's not that clean and simple. So it kind of defeats the object of what they were trying to achieve there. So I don't quite understand what the essence of this watch is meant for, but yeah, not my favorite watch. It is a dual time zone watch. 24-hour scale in these rather gross numbers around the dial that are a little bit in your face. They kind of look like Odeon cinema writing, which is not not nice. That's not a compliment. However, saying that, even though I don't love it, the beauty of Patek Philippe and their range is they have such a range of watches in their collection. It means that pretty much anyone can find a watch they love, and I'm definitely not saying that there's no one out there that will love this watch. There definitely is. There's going to be someone that will absolutely love the style of this watch. I just don't think that it will be that popular with that many people. On the plus side though, I do love the strap on this watch. I love that kind of suede effect. I wish Patek did that more. And it goes back to what I said before about one of the previous watches, is that it gives some of these watches a bit more of a younger feel rather than going for the standard gloss alligator style strap. So I do like that. That's, for me, the saving grace is the strap. Moving on now to the 5905R or 5905. Beautiful watch. We've seen this watch for a little while now. It's a flyback chronograph combined with an annual calendar. So two pretty cool, pretty useful complications in one watch. And this one being in this incredible rose gold case with a beautiful kind of sunburst laser etched dial with a beautiful blue strap. Again, Patek Philippe going for really stunning bold colors, taking them outside of that dark navy, black, gray, blah, 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 blah. Color palette. So it's really cool to see these bolder colors, again, in line with what the other brands are doing this year as well. Lovely watch overall. Can't wait to see this watch in real life. I feel like in real life, this will look absolutely incredible. I think the pop of that blue, that royal blue with the rose gold will look really incredible. Moving on now to the 5924, we've got a gray dial and a green dial in this watch. This is the first time we've seen Patek release a chronograph option for their pilot's watches. And actually it really works because we've got those huge crowns on the pilot watches. These big, pushers, chronograph pushers now work actually really nicely on this watch. And this watch is a chronograph with a travel time complication built in as well. So a pretty useful watch, again, similar to that 5905 that we just looked at. Really cool looking watches. I think if I had to choose between the two, the green or the grey dial, I would choose the bluey grey dial, just because I love the way that that's a combination kind of between blue, grey and green. It's a really stunning kind of subtle dial that I think would complement most outfits that you pair that with. The trouble with green sometimes is, as beautiful as it looks on its own, sometimes it's really hard to pair that with outfits without it clashing. So I think this is a really nice neutral watch that could be worn really for everyday wear, and it never would really look out of place. Moving on now to the 6007. Don't know if the 007 is kind of a play on references for Patek Philippe, because this looks a bit like a watch you'd find in a casino. And I don't mean that in a good way. It literally looks like a free watch from a bowling alley or something. I don't know what they thought when they designed these watches, but it comes in 3 different colors. None of them are particularly nice because they're such bold primary colors. And yellow, blue and red, because they're so bold and not pastely or subtle, and they're paired with a deep jet black, they kind of jar each other out in a way which doesn't really look so nice. They don't really sit together that well. I think if they went for maybe grey tones rather than black tones, it would have maybe brought those color tones into the watch design a little bit more. At the moment, they're kind of sitting outside of the spectrum of the design. They feel a little bit off, and the black is kind of kicking the color away a little bit, which is a shame. The trouble with this watch as well is, other than the nasty carbon fiber style dial and strap, is the fact that they're £30,000 each. I can understand 30 grand for the 3 pair, the triple set maybe, but 30 grand each is just a little bit too much for something that is incredibly simple and really unattractive. So really not sure what Patek was thinking about there. I don't think these will be popular at all, definitely not with our clients, but maybe they will be with Patek clients or other people's clients. Sorry to anyone that really loves this watch. I don't mean to offend you. This is just about the watch, not you and your taste personally. I just don't quite understand what Patek was thinking about. Moving on now to some ladies' watches, 4997. Beautiful, clean, beautiful, beautiful watch in this kind of purpley pink color with a rose gold case, really elegant case with a beautiful, delicate diamond bezel on this watch. I love the dial, the way it's kind of laser etched again in this sunburst effect gives it so much life, and we've got these kind of pointed dart and index markers, and also the laser etching on the dial, the sunburst effect kind of gives it this darty effect as well, which is really stunning. So yeah, really love this watch. I think it will do very well in the Asian market. So yeah, I see this doing very, very well. And it's lovely and clean and simple, which is nice to see from Patek. Contrary to the clean and simple 4997 is the 4962 Gondolo watch, which is already not a very nice watch in their collection. No offense, it just looks a little bit bulbous, and I don't find this watch really elegant in any way, which is a real shame because it could be a beautiful watch. I think the thing that's really holding me back about this watch is the fact that they've gone for 4 different colors on this piece. You've got the rose gold, you've got the tone of the brown strap, the reddy brown, pinky purpley brown dial, and then you've got the kind of cognac style stones, the garnets basically around the bezel, which are all different colors again. So the trouble is nothing really quite links together cleanly, and it means that everything kind of clashes because they're not quite too dissimilar that they work together. They're slightly similar, but really not. So they all slightly clash, and I just think it really doesn't work. I know this one will not be popular with us. Maybe it'll be popular with others, but I just wish that maybe they went for brown diamonds, or around the bezel, or maybe just not make this watch at all. Maybe a cleaner dial would have helped this watch out a lot, actually, if they just went for a straight brown dial, brown strap, and maybe some brown diamonds. That could have looked really nice, cognac style diamonds. Moving on now to sporty watches, 5261, which is an Aquanaut released this year. We have an amazing annual calendar Aquanaut, for the first time seeing annual calendar as an option on the Aquanaut, which is really unusual for Patek. They don't tend to put too many complications into the sporty watches, so this is cool to see. And it's in this really cool light blue color as well. Again, a first for Aquanaut, so it's lovely to see that combination between the rose gold and that light blue. Again, Patek going for those more kind of neutral colors rather than the standard, male, female watch tones or color tones. So it's lovely to see them kind of venturing outside of that and making more of a kind of unisex palette, which is nice. This one has an interesting dial. I wish they'd kind of remodeled this dial, or modeled this dial slightly differently. Even though I like the balance and the symmetry this dial offers, I wish they didn't go for those 2 sub-dials showing the day and the date, or day and the month, sorry. It, in a way, has now left no room on this dial. As a result, the moon phase is now squished up above the logo and is covering up half of the 12. Kind of feels like they ran out of space, and we've got our date window down at 6 o'clock. What would have been nicer is if they put the moon phase down the bottom of the dial, maybe put around the logo or towards the top of the dial the date function, our day inside a window, and our month inside a window as well, like we see on the 5205, which is a much more balanced watch in terms of the way it looks on the dial. What's good though is that I think we're obviously going to see this watch revisited in other metals and other dial colors and variations, which is really cool. I'm sure we'll get green versions, maybe in a white gold with green dial and green strap. I'm sure we'll get steel versions with black dial and black strap, which is really cool to see, so I'm looking forward to it. One thing that's slightly strange about this watch though is they added this weird, slightly different strap on this Aquanaut than they normally do. The standard men's kind of 5167 style standard Aquanaut straps are with these kind of raised tire print style effect on the strap, whereas this, or pattern on the strap, whereas this has these kind of chocolate bar style where it's below the surface, and I think it doesn't look as nice. It looks kind of a bit old and vintage, a bit more true actually to the original Aquanaut, which I don't love actually. I think the newer style straps look a bit cleaner actually than this one. But overall, really cool to see Patek experimenting with more complicated movements and options on something that's designed to be primarily just one for sport or swimming, really. Moving on to next watch, which is 6268, which is dubbed as a ladies, but can be obviously men's as well. Rose gold Aquanaut with a brown rubber strap and a brown dial and a diamond set bezel as well. Really nice, simple design. Definitely going to do really well. This one is slightly different to the 5269 reference that we also have for ladies in terms of the Aquanaut. That one has the white dial and obviously the white strap, but that one also is a travel time. This one is a time and date only watch. So that leads me to think that they're probably going to add more to this 5268 reference and maybe add in some kind of other models, or maybe steel or white gold or whatever. So that's really cool to see. Moving on to our last watch now from Patek, we've got the 5968R. Obviously we're used to seeing this watch in white gold with the green dial and strap and the blue dial and blue strap. So it's nice to see this now for the first time in rose gold. And of course we have it in iconic Patek Philippe rose gold with the brown dial and the brown rubber strap. So really cool to see. This watch kind of feels like we've seen this one already. It feels like, you know, not in a bad way. It feels like we already know this watch. It feels like it's not anything new. Maybe it just feels like it was meant to happen. It was, you know, something waiting in the wings to enter in. So it's here now, we've got it. It's a nice option. I think it will do very well. The white gold ones definitely have done fantastically well for us, both in the blue and the green options. But yeah, really like to see this as a cool piece to see from Patek, and summarizes all the beautiful watches that they've released this year. Definitely for me though, without question, that 5316 is the absolute highlight of this year's release. It is truly a work of art and an incredible feat of watchmaking and engineering, and with that beautiful crystal dial. Yeah, skeletized watches like that just are pretty unique and pretty special. Thanks guys for watching. Let us know in the comments what you think of these watches. Which is your favorite from Patek Philippe this year? What are you hoping for from April and October releases? And as always, if you're interested in any of these watches, don't hesitate to get in touch. Our details are in the description and also the end of the video. It'd be a pleasure to call them into stock for you.